His integrity as a coach, his honesty and character are what has endeared him to all his former players. And believe me, it was unbelievable. I saw teammates of mine from high school. I saw guys at Portland State, some of which I actually coached there, and just it was so fun. I mean, Tom Treblehorn came up from Arizona, and he, like me, played for Jack at Cleveland High. And even Tom Wise and Rick Wise were there. Tom and Rick both played at Madison. Rick, of course, major league pitcher of great note, terrific. The only guy to ever pitch a no-hitter in the big leagues and also hit 2 home runs. They were there as a sign of respect, I think, for Jack. And it's always good they enrich whatever gathering they show up at. And just so many people. I can't get into mentioning too many names, but it was really fun, and Jack gave a little speech, and somebody asked him, Chad, how do you get to be 95? Because he looks 20 years younger than that, and he's very active. And he said, well, you get to 94, and then for the next year, you're just really careful.
What? That's one thing that stands out because when I met him, he was 90 plus, but just his health, his mental faculty, like he's still sharp as a tack, communicates extremely well. I hope if I live to be that age that I can function and have mobility and my thought process is clear as Jack. It's truly amazing. But Godfather, I'm a big believer that our communities need more guys like Jack, coaches like Jack in all sports, because not only was he patient and had the care and the love for his players, but he's also a great ambassador for the game that continues to spread the word about baseball, and that type of work can really reach younger children who want to get involved in sports, and I think that's what Jack's great at, and I think our communities could use more guys like him.
Yeah, you're right, Chad, and for years he and Roy Love, his longtime friend and former Portland State head coach, conducted a clinic at Alpenrose Dairy for Little League kids. It was Metro Baseball School, and so many kids learned baseball there, then became counselors there, my son amongst them, and just kind of grew up around that atmosphere where they grew to love baseball. And things like that are kind of missing now. And coaches like Jack, I think it's much harder to coach as long as Jack did. And so many of the coaches from that era, because they didn't face the kind of heat that they do now. There wasn't as much parental interference. They were allowed to coach the way they wanted to coach. Players in that era weren't as upset about riding the bench a little while, and it's a lot different nowadays. If you're not starting on the team, kids have a tendency to quit, or somebody comes in and demands that they play more. It's just a different atmosphere now, and bless those coaches I had, not only Jack, but several others that I recall from my time growing up, because they taught me a lot of things. They teach you, how it is, Chad. Coaches teach you things your parents don't teach you. And you learn things like losing and how to deal with all that, how to deal with bad umpiring and all that stuff. And it's just a lot of life lessons.
In fact, you mentioned how difficult it is to coach youth sports today. I saw a post from Antonio Harvey, former Trailblazer, and he said he's been involved in the game of basketball for like 40 years now. And he said he's never had a more difficult and ugly experience than that of teaching. I think it was a 6th grade girls basketball team, and mostly that's because you're dealing with the parents.
Yeah.
A lot of craziness out there. So that's why I respect guys like Jack. But I would imagine to have so many different players and people he came across show up at his birthday party, it probably made him feel good, because my guess is the influence that guys like Jack have, you don't even recognize it in the moment how important you are to someone or a youngster. And it's cool that they never forgot his influence and what he brought to their life to show up and wish him well at 95. That's cool.
Yeah, and when you have a coach like that, you develop bonds not only with the coach but with your teammates, because you learn to appreciate your teammates. And so for me, it's just a great chance to go back and catch up with people that, gosh, some of these people I haven't seen in years. And it was just great. There's a little lunch, and Mike Clopton's wife Gail makes a birthday cake for him, and it's just always it's always such a nice thing to go to, and puts a smile on your face. And you get to remember, Chad, those great times when you were a kid and you played ball and you didn't have an awful lot of other worries in the world,
No doubt about it. We got a lot of things we're going to get to today. You sent this over to me just a few minutes ago, but there's a video from Jets OTAs where Aaron Rodgers is seen kind of hobbling around a little bit, and then he walks over to the side of the field, and he sits down and takes off a shoe and starts inspecting his heel, and that's on the leg that he did not injure last year. So it's the opposite leg from the Achilles injury. But I wonder if this is a concern, and you know how this works with injuries, Godfather. When you have an injury to one side, you tend to favor that side, which puts extra strain on the other side of your body because you're overcompensating. And this may not be anything big, but I'll tell you what, it's the Jets, so I always expect the worst. But if Rodgers can't go and he's unable to play this year, they need to yank them off every one of their 6 nationally televised games, because without Rodgers, I don't need to see that, neither do you or anybody else.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Chad, I even question myself sometimes thinking about watching him when he's playing, because to me, they're still kind of a bland team other than him. And he's going to have to do a lot of great things to make the Jets interesting to me. But you're right. If this is a serious thing, oh, my goodness, all that money that they're paying him and just all the attention and all the dreams and hopes of Jets fans, if there are any left, and I'm sure there are some left. But, you know, people dreaming Super Bowl with him on board, and that ain't going to happen without him.
Well, this is a time of year, and we've talked about this before. Every football season, I get really concerned because teams enter into their off-season programs. So you've got the rookie camps, and then you've got the OTAs, and then you have the break, and then guys enter into training camp. And, you know, your season can be over or be severely damaged before it even begins because of the injuries that are incurred during camp. And a lot of this stuff happens on non-contact drills where guys are running around or running plays, and you plant, and all of a sudden a knee or an ankle or something gives way. And I hate that kind of stuff, man. This is the scariest time of the year for football teams because injuries can pop up like this. But, you know, I would imagine for Rodgers, and not only him but also Kirk Cousins, like even Kirk's talked about it where he feels great, but there's still that process of adjustment coming off injury where you're still working your way back and knowing that there's still more things you have to accomplish before you can get back into playing shape. And for Rodgers, that's probably the same thing. He's trying to get himself back to the position to where he feels comfortable. But it would be hard for me to come off an injury and to get to the point where I can truly trust that side that's been surgically repaired. I've never had to go through that, but I don't want to go through that.
Yeah, I'm on the same side as you on that. I would say this, too. OTAs I always wonder about, because you wonder, number one, you'd hope all these guys are reporting ready to go in good shape, because you got to know the coaches are going to push them, probably push them more than usual. They're not in pads, so you're going to have to see what they can do, you know, in all kinds of drills, and it's just, you hope they're ready for this. And it's like, you're right, non-contact injuries, that's what happens. And he didn't have any contact. Hell, the quarterback never has any in practice anymore, but gosh, when I saw him, he looked kind of concerned. I mean, he took that shoe and sock off and was kind of rubbing it a little bit, and it looked like he was wondering what the heck's going on.
No doubt about it. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. We'll get more specifics on the Game 5 tonight with Dallas and Minnesota. I know you're not surprised that Minnesota, you know, won Game 4 in Dallas and was able to extend the series, but what does your initial thoughts tell you about the game tonight? Do you think Minnesota will get the win? Do you think Dallas is going to bounce back? Like, how do you feel this game is going to go down tonight?
Well, this has been a really tough one for me, Chad, having watched these games. And it's just like, I kind of feel like I have a good feeling for Dallas. I know what they do, how they play, what they expect from them. But I still don't feel like I know Minnesota. They're not the same team that managed to beat Denver. They're just not that team now. And I think it's very possible that the Nuggets have had a lasting imprint on Minnesota that's going to carry on. And they wore Minnesota out in that series, I think. It sure looks like it. They haven't had the same energy that they had against the Nuggets. I mean, you know, they're playing the Nuggets. They're the defending champions. It's easy to get up for that series. And they were up, and their fans were up. But since then, now you're playing Dallas, probably a team you didn't even expect to see in the playoffs. And they haven't. I just don't think they've been consistent enough to say, yeah, I think they'll win tonight. They should win tonight. This is set up for them to win tonight. But I don't know what to expect. And it's like, even when you get to Edwards, who's been a guy for them, when he plays well, they usually win. Same with Towns. I don't know what to expect from either one of them, honestly.
Well, I think I'm with you on the Nuggets series. In fact, I think the rest of the teams who are alive in the postseason should give Minnesota a big thank you if they don't advance for taking care of business against the champs. I think what happened is in that series, to get over on Denver, who we all thought was the best team in the NBA, they knew going into the series it was going to take a Herculean effort, and it was going to require great energy and great defense to be able to pull it off because of Jokic and Murray and the way that they execute, and they were able to pull it off. But I do agree. They expended so much energy, especially on the defensive end of the floor in that series, and then they had to go back and win another game in Denver, Game 7. So you win 3 road games in the series to pull it off. You had to win 2 games in a row, Games 6 and 7, to be able to pull this series off. And then all of a sudden you're jumping right into the Western Conference Finals, and I just think the fatigue factor caught up with them. And I don't think Anthony Edwards has been able to catch his second wind after everything that he put out on the floor against Denver. And look at the series. When Luka and Kyrie have shot the ball well and scored, Dallas has won.
Yeah.
On the flip side, in the one game that Minnesota won, they finally got, Cat and Ant to be able to hit shots. And that's been the big issue for Minnesota when they haven't played well in the postseason, Godfather. It's the offense. They just can't find enough guys to step up and make shots. And I hate to say it, because we hear it all the time, make or miss league, but
yeah,
that's the way I see it tonight. If Cat and Ant are able to make shots, they're going to be just fine. If they don't, and you get Kyrie and Luka to go off, then that's probably going to mean a Dallas victory and they move on. But I will say this, if you're Dallas, you want to handle business now, because if they drop the game tonight, you're going to extend the series and you're going to put yourself in a position to be gassed going into the finals against Boston, and the Celtics are able to sit back and on this easy path and get rest and allow their players to heal and get ready to go mentally and emotionally for the finals, including getting Kristaps Porzingis back. And that's a major edge edge for Boston.
Yeah, and if you're Minnesota, you're going home here, and it's like, wait a second now. This is your third chance to win a home game in this series. If you're any kind of team at all, come on now. You got to win a home game, one of them at least. You've already lost 2. But if you win 2 more home games and then somehow figure out a way to steal one in Dallas, you're moving on to the NBA Finals. If that doesn't get you excited, geeked up a little bit, then you shouldn't be this far anyway. And that's a lot to look forward to. You think about being down 3-0. Well, it's, one win can turn a series around, and nobody's ever done this. That's also an incentive. Let's be the first team to do this.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to see it, and I do think that this series lines up for that. I think for Minnesota tonight, if you get the win, then all of the pressure goes on to Dallas for that Game 6, and we'll see how things shake out. A couple other quick notes for you. Right now in the College Softball World Series, UCLA took out Alabama 4-1. Oklahoma defeated Duke 9-1. Stanford and Texas, the 8-1 matchup, they're coming up later on today at 4. Oklahoma State and Florida, so keep an eye on that. And then, Dwight, tomorrow night, Oregon State will kick off things in the Corvallis Regional. They're taking on Tulane. How do you feel about Oregon State's chances to advance out of the Corvallis Regional?
I think this is a real winnable regional for them. I think they didn't get stuck with one of those kind of sleeper teams that maybe should have been host of its own regional. There are a few of those. But these are teams they should handle. If they're the team that they think they are, this one you got to win, and then you move on to the super regionals.
So what's been their big problem? Because they were playing well and the bats were on fire, and then they went ice cold in the Pac-12 tournament. So what do they need to do to turn it around and be able to go on a run here?
Well, they need to swing the bats, obviously, and I don't know how that starts. It's always mystical with hitting. You're hitting, everybody's hitting, and then all of a sudden nobody's hitting. But they've also had bullpen problems, Chad. They've had a couple games, especially road games, where their closers let them down, and they were games that, had they been able to seal those, like the one down in Arizona that would have given them the regular season Pac-12 title, and then that first game of the Pac-12 tournament where they lost to Stanford, that was not a good loss. And those two hurt them bad. They're ranked really in the top 7 or 8 teams in the country all year long. They have the 15th seed now in this tournament because of those 2 games.
Yikes. I do like the tournament format, though. This is a fun time of the year. You like this style of baseball, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these are really good. The idea of having the first regional with 4 teams, you can play a real quick double elimination so that one game doesn't cost you. But if you have a good team with balance, you can win that. And then you move on to a 2 out of 3 series for the right to go to the World Series. See, those are fair, I think. I don't like one-game playoffs in baseball because baseball is sort of like a random game where if you have the hot pitcher, you can win. This format forces you to have more than one good pitcher. In fact, you probably need to have 3 good starters and a pretty good bullpen.
All right, one other note, too. I've got the tournament coming up with your wife this weekend at Willamette Valley Country Club, the Couples Chapman. I took yesterday off, I took today off, and then I'll get one tune-up round in tomorrow before the shotgun start Saturday at 1 o'clock. The weather looks like it's going to be great on Saturday, a little bit questionable on Sunday, but we get an early start on Sunday after the 1 o'clock start on Monday. I've been getting the emails, so I understand the format. I understand how things are going to go down, so I hope she's excited and ready to roll because I am. I can't wait. I'm pumped, Godfather.
Yeah, she's actually very excited about the whole thing, and she's been playing all week trying to get ready, and the main thing I'm thinking for both you guys is you're going to have to relax. You're both pretty geeked up. I think you're in the second flight, Chad, which means you're not playing the very best players, but you're in a good flight with a lot of good players. And I know in the first round on Saturday, they put somebody from the A flight, the B flight, and the C flight together, and that's what you'll be. There'll be 6 people in that six-sum you're playing in, but no one that you're going to be playing head-to-head with the next day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm ready to rock. Coming up on the show at 4 o'clock, we'll get into just how close Dallas and Minnesota has been. Even though the Mavs are up 3-1, it'll be surprising. At 4:45, we'll get a chance to talk about something that's nearly orgasmic. It's the return of NCAA football to your video game consoles. I know Burkhart's a fan, as am I. Dwight sent over a great piece on that today, so that's going to be awesome. And when we come back, there's been a study in the NCAA on the portal, and we're going to break that down and what that means for certain schools. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, a couple of guys who are a lot smarter than Dwight and I.
Which could be anybody.
That's true. Very good point. From the University of Oregon, Adam Kovar, who is a 2023 graduate from the Lundquist College of Business, and data analytics instructor Charlie Baim Aldred started the project last year and have submitted their analysis and research study to the Journal of Sports Analytics for review. And it's titled Performance Differences Between College Football Transfers and Recruits. The paper looks into how strategic use of the NCAA transfer portal boosts performance in key football positions, including quarterbacks. So, Godfather, I'll just read a couple of key points from the piece, and then you can share your thoughts.
Okay.
So it's titled Performance Differences Between College Football Transfers and Recruits. To get there, Kovar and Baim Aldridge systematically evaluated each position's production using offense and defensive grades created by Pro Football Focus, a ranking and stats aggregator. For each position, they determined the average grades for recruits and transfers from Power 5 conferences, the ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, and Pac-12. Quote, we found that transfer quarterbacks and interior offensive linemen significantly outperformed recruits, and transfer linebackers significantly underperformed recruits, Kovar said. We found that the average transfer quarterback versus the average recruited quarterback resulted in approximately one additional win per season for their team. That, according to Kovar, the researchers also discovered a relationship between elevated use of the portal and team wins. The teams with the lowest percentages of snaps played by transfers averaged more than 1.4 wins more than the teams with the highest percentages of snaps played by transfers. Quote, our results suggest that coaches and recruiters should diligently use the portal for strategic acquisitions rather than a replacement for traditional recruiting through high school and junior college. For student athletes, being judicious in their selection of a school will offer the best opportunity for their success within college football. So there's a couple of highlights from the piece. What was your big takeaway from it, Godfather?
Well, I think the part you got to last was most interesting to me, the idea that teams with the most transfers didn't win as many games as the ones with the least amount of transfers. I think it doesn't bode well for schools like Colorado, who seem to be dipping in pretty heavily to the portal. And I think it also suggests that recruiting well in the high schools, and especially at certain positions, is a real plus. And I think that's good news for the high school kids who have, for the last couple of years, been kind of neglected in recruiting as the schools rush to the portal.
Well, this makes sense to me in terms of the lack of success by heavy uses of the portal because, you've been around sports a long time, Godfather. One of the big keys, obviously, is continuity, having guys who are in your program, players who have played together and an understanding of one another, and that's something that cannot be created in most cases over the course of spring football. It takes time to be able to develop that type of chemistry. Also, I think for coaches, when you bring in high school players who have committed to your program and you recruit them, you bring them in and you can lay the foundation for what your program's about, what you're looking to accomplish, the way you want to play football, what are your team values, and they become integrated in that. But I think, and this impacts the continuity, is when you bring players in larger numbers from the portal, they're not a part of that. They weren't there from the beginning and really may not have a clear understanding of the foundation of what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that can create some of the issues there.
The other thing I saw too, Chad, was the idea that the most successful transfers were the quarterbacks and the interior offensive linemen. And I thought, that doesn't seem to be a coincidence to me that those players in general now, just in general, are considered the smartest ones on the field.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Most of the football players who played in the NFL that I know and have talked to, they all point to the offensive linemen traditionally as being very bright-minded, sharp individuals. Mm-hmm. And you see that with the high performers at that position because they've got to, and oftentimes, call out plays. They've got to help their teammates. They've got to have an understanding of the offense, their alignment. They've got to work in unison, in terms of their footwork and being on the same page. And you've got to be really sharp to be able to pull that off. And it's not an easy position to play. And for the quarterbacks, well, that's what they do, right? So, we saw with Bo Nix and Michael Penix, if you get a talented quarterback who has a very good understanding of offense, who has talent and obviously is willing to put in the time and study, you can go anywhere if you've got a connection with the coach and the offensive coordinator and be able to have success. And I'm going to believe this, that moving forward, the quarterbacks, the talented quarterbacks who aren't getting a chance to play, most of them, if they go to the right spot and get a chance to play and get the reps, they're probably going to flourish and be able to pay off from there. I don't know. The linebacker thing was interesting to me. I wonder why linebackers struggle when you bring them in from the portal. Why would linebacker be such a difficult spot?
I had trouble with that one too, Chad. And my other thought was quarterback is probably the most easy position to evaluate in the portal, especially when you're going to get guys like Penix, Nix, the kid Oregon has now, who've all played significant time at the school they've been at. You know what you're getting. You know when a guy plays at that level in a conference like that, you know exactly who he is and what he can do. And I think it makes it much easier to highlight a guy rather than going after somebody who, it's difficult in some positions. Some of these guys' success is system-based rather than personal performance-based. So I think it's a little more difficult to evaluate maybe defensive linemen and maybe linebackers, I don't know, based on what you see of them during games.
Well, I think, too, the study really confirms what we've known in sports. I mean, take any sport. Look at basketball and the NBA. It could be the NFL. The way that you build a team, it's always through that process of, recruiting and developing your players. So in the NBA, you've got to draft well and you've got to develop, and then you can use trades and free agency to augment your roster. But the teams that we see at the highest levels, usually their players have been groomed in their own system. We see that with Minnesota right now. We see it with the Denver Nuggets. Most of the great teams, aside from a couple of occasions, have been built through the draft. And I think that's the case in baseball. The Yankees were always criticized for spending big money under Steinbrenner when they won their championships with Jeter. But the core guys on that roster who helped them be a part of that, who were the cornerstones of their championship teams, they were all part of the Yankee farm system. So that team was constructed from the ground up, which I think is important. And that's the same thing in football, too. You have to draft well and develop and then reward the players that you develop and draft by extending them. And you can use free agency to augment certain spots, but it's the same in sports no matter what. You can't go too heavy on free agency. You've got to be able to draft and develop. And it's the same thing now with the portal, right?
Absolutely,
same formula.
Chad. And it's the culture thing that coaches so often talk about. Much easier to develop that solid culture when you have players around for a while who know what you expect. And then they can welcome in specific transfers and induct them into their culture. Otherwise, if you got a lot of transfers, that culture goes away.
All right, when we come back, we're going to give you some numbers that might explain why Minnesota could be the first team to pull off an 0-3 deficit in the NBA playoffs. The Mavericks and Timberwolves have been close. I think you all know that, but it's even closer than you think. We'll explain why. You got the Rip City Drive. Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. Western Conference Finals will continue tonight. Minnesota Wolves able to keep the series alive with a Game 4 win. What's next for the Wolves? Here's head coach Chris Finch.
We just got to keep battling them. They're unbelievably great players. Their fingerprints have been all over this series, making so many great plays and tough shots. At some point, maybe they're going to have a little bit of an off night.
Yeah, the Wolves are favored by 4.5. Tip-off 5:30 on TNT. From the NFL, Jalen Waddle agrees to a 3-year extension with the Dolphins with $76 million in guaranteed cash. Checking the college softball World Series scoreboard right now. Oklahoma winners over Duke 9-1, and UCLA a 4-1 winner. Oregon State will kick off the Corvallis Regional tomorrow at 6 from Goss Stadium as they take on Tulane. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now. All right, Godfather, we have more goodies to give away today.
Yes.
We're going to give away a 4-pack of tickets for the Portland Thorns coming up here in 20 minutes. And then at 5 o'clock, thanks to my stupidity, we have not one, but we have 2 4-packs for the Portland E-Pre-Race, which is coming to PIR. We'll give those away at 5 o'clock. Chris Burkhardt is here, and I can't wait to talk about the college football 25 from EA Sports, which is we're going to get to at 4:45. The new video game is going to drop. And Godfather, with the new college football game coming out, I may be able to put a hold on buying Madden every year, and now I can ship back to college football, man. I'm glad you sent me that report. I'm geeked up.
That's your favorite, right? Isn't that your favorite video game?
Yeah, I think of all time. It's my favorite video game. And for me, I have an Xbox, but I only play one game right now, and that's Madden. So I play football, and I enjoy playing it during football season. And now I will transition to college football because, well, for a variety of different reasons we'll get to, but I'll enjoy that. Did you grow up, well, you're before me, but did you play video games at any point in time in your life, or is that a little bit past your time?
I played some. Actually, I was in that era, Chad, of, like Donkey Kong, Punch-Out, not many sports games. I didn't like the sports games as much. I played them.
Well, because they sucked back then.
They really did.
Yeah.
You're right. I had one of those little Mattel handheld things with football that was just terrible, basically. And I didn't play a lot of them, no. I liked the ones that were non-sports, the mystery ones where you had to solve a mystery. Or I do remember a time where I had Leisure Suit Larry, if anybody out there remember Leisure Suit Larry.
That's awesome. Now, Burkhardt, would you agree that the first really orgasmic sports video game experience was Tecmo Bowl? Is that kind of when it all began back in the day?
Yeah,
I think that's probably when it began.
Modern sports video game fan, Tecmo Bowl holds a special place in their heart. It really did kind of start the trend.
You're right. Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl was the beginning of what we see today. Like, that was the first image and play where you're like, man, this has got a chance to become something special, because before that, most of the sports video games were brutal to play and not enjoyable. But Godfather, I grew up in the 80s arcades as well, and it was the one way my mom could get me to go to the mall with her is if she gave me a pocket full of quarters to be able to play it. I loved Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, all that stuff. It was the best.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, Asteroids, all those. They played them all. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this series which continues tonight. Game 5 in Minnesota, the Mavericks and Timberwolves. Now, you sent over a few numbers. I want to read these off to you because this kind of illustrates how close this series has been. Dallas is up 3-1, but every game's been tight. But check out these numbers here. Points per game, 108.3 to 106.3, so a 2-point difference. Rebounds per game, 40.5 to 38.3. Minnesota is +7 with Rudy Gobert on the floor. Dallas is -10 with Luka Doncic off the floor. That's how close this series has been, Godfather. And that's why I think if there's any team that's got a chance to pull off the 0-3 deficit, Minnesota would be the one, because they defend and they're playing a series where two teams are evenly matched. There's not a dominant force in this series. And even if Dallas wins tonight, it's not like they smoked Minnesota in the series. Every game's been highly contested, which is what's made it compelling basketball.
Yeah, for sure, Chad, and a lot of them have gone down to the wire. In those games, a lot of these stat guys and analytic guys will tell you that very often games like that are settled by just good fortune, basically luck. Ball bounces your way, it doesn't bounce your way, you get a call from an official, all those kinds of things that can go either way. So I think Minnesota feels right now that there's a couple of these games they should have won already, and they legitimately shouldn't be out of this series at all. And the plus-minus numbers were the ones that kind of amused me, and those numbers are much more valid when you have a larger sample size. But people are still giving Rudy Gobert a bad time, but there's no question of his impact on the floor. It's just don't expect him, like any big man, to go out on the floor and guard a player like Gobert. That's just not his thing. He can't do that. But the impact he has at the basket is amazing. And then I was also surprised that Luka is minus 10 on the floor. And I don't know what to attribute that to, other than he doesn't defend as well as people think he's defending, I think. And they probably are selling out too much with Cat on his three-point shots. They're running at him. They're doubling him a little bit. And that can come back and haunt you when you do that. And, I don't know what to think about what's going to happen tonight. As I said earlier, Chad, I can't figure Minnesota out. I just don't know what to think about them. And this is a show me game for them. If they're competitors, if they're a team that belongs in this round, you go win a home game. Just one home game, okay? Then you can go back to Dallas. If you lose to Dallas, okay, that's fine. They took it out to the sixth game. That's fine. But they better do that tonight.
Yeah, you can't blow that game tonight. But the one thing I don't understand, what was it, game 2 when Luka hit that game-winning three? If you're Minnesota and you know you're going to switch everything, why would you have Gobert on the floor in a position to get stuck out on the perimeter trying to defend Luka Doncic? Why would you do that? No. I don't understand the decision-making there by the coaching staff. Did that make sense to you?
Oh, it's a very poorly coached situation. There is no question. Rudy should not have been out there because you know that what's going to happen is Luka will have the ball and he's going to hunt the player that he wants to go one-on-one against. Well, if Rudy's on the floor, that's who it's going to be. And he'll run the pick and roll. He'll have the guy Rudy's guarding, come out and set a pick for him. So he gets the switch. And that's not by accident. That's his intent all the way along. And so don't have him out there because he can't play in space with a guard. It's just not going to happen. And no big guy can do that, really. And so put somebody else out there. They have other choices, and that was a big mistake by the coaching staff.
So really with Gobert, and I know Burkhart's a big fan of Gobert too and the way he defends. So really it's the situation like that where he gets stuck on Luka on the perimeter where he gets posterized and everyone gives him a hard time. Yeah. But for the majority of the games that he's played in the postseason, when he's on the floor in a position to impact shots around the rim, that's where he's making his true impact because he changes shots, he blocks shots. Obviously, he's a very good rebounder. That's where he creates all the havoc. He's in the paint.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why they defend so well. It's why they can take chances on the perimeter and know that
he's there to clean it up.
Yeah. He's there erasure.
Well, I think I've seen enough in this series to know how things, what both teams need. Dallas needs shot making from Luka and Kyrie. They've got to score. And then for Minnesota, they need Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards to have big offensive nights. And whichever team gets that combination is likely going to emerge the victor tonight. And that's the way the rest of the series is going to play out. It's pretty obvious. Minnesota needs offense from Cat and from Ant. And for Dallas, it's the two studs. And in fact, what's been said over the last couple of days, a lot of people think that Luka and Kyrie might be the best offensive backcourt in the history of the league. Would you buy into that?
No.
Offensively?
No, I'm not ready to say that. And there's such a recency bias nowadays. They see a few playoff games. Oh, yeah, they're the greatest ever. Well, there's been a lot of them that are pretty good, I don't see it with those two. Yeah, I mean, they're good. They're great. But, there's been a lot of great ones, not just a few. I mean, you just go back to Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars. I mean, terrific offense from those guys.
They're not even better than prime Steph and Clay.
Right.
I mean, prime Steph and Clay won championships.
I've got to think about that. The two names that came up to me right away were Isaiah and Joe in terms of offensive backcourt.
Well, I'll tell you what, Magic Johnson and Byron Scott were pretty good too, because Byron Scott could make shots.
Yes, he could. Yeah, it's great. I guess I'm impressed with Dallas, Kyrie, and what he's been able to do. In fact, here's Charles Barkley talking about Kyrie's turnaround. Take a listen.
He self-inflicted himself. He got to take some responsibility. I think he's grown up. I think he's matured. Stephen A. and other people criticized him, and he rightly deserved it. You can't go out there being anti-Semitic, and, you can do the vaccine thing. That's your own thing. But he deserved the criticism he got. He deserved the suspension he got. But as a basketball player, I think he's really grown up. I thought after game one, that was a grown man in full flight. I'd never seen him that happy. We all made mistakes. I've done plenty of stupid things, but at some point you have to grow up, and I think he's grown up.
Yeah, no doubt. I still am very impressed with Kyrie's turnaround. Somehow he has been able to completely redeem himself from the way things ended in Brooklyn. I can't believe he pulled it off, Godfather, but he has. He's playing well for Dallas. He's being a good teammate, and he's not doing dumb things or saying crazy stuff like the earth is flat. It's good.
Yeah. I'd like to see, though, what would happen if he got put in a tough spot. It's all been pretty much sweetness and light for the Mavericks so far, and I'd like to see how he reacts to some adversity maybe. But, yeah, I'm very impressed with him. He's turned me around. I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, I wasn't willing to say too much good about him. And Charles said, he self-inflicted himself. That's one way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, that's Barkley for you. Always got a way with words. Here's Jason Kidd talking about Anthony Edwards.
He's one of the best young players, or take the young part off. He's one of the best players in this league. And so, again, give Minnesota credit. They fought. They found a way to extend the series. Now it goes back to Minnesota.
All right, Game 5, 5:30 tip. So I like the Wolves tonight. Do you like the Wolves, Godfather? Or are you just going to say I have no idea what to expect from them?
Well,
Sit back and watch the game.
I don't have any idea what to expect, but I would pick the Timberwolves to win. It's funny that they're given 4.5 points tonight, and I wouldn't have expected to be them. I figured it was a 2-point game either way, maybe, but no, 4.5. That's a reasonable number.
Hey, Burkhart, who do you like tonight? You think the series is extended, or is Dallas going to end it on the road?
Gut tells me Dallas is going to end it on the road. I go back to what you guys said earlier. I think it took a lot out of Minnesota to get over Denver, and they tested them. Now they're beat up, and they go into a war against a great Dallas team. So, yeah, I think Dallas gets it done on the road.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. When we come back, we're going to give away, our first set of goodies today. We got a 4-pack of tickets for the Portland Thorns. We'll give those away coming up next. And we'll continue our discussion on the NBA playoffs. At 4:45, we're going to get to the College Football 25 from EA Sports, which is epic. And then at 5 o'clock, we have 2 4-packs to give away for the Portland E-Pre race coming to PIR. We got a Bo Nix update. We also got Bill Walton statue madness down in San Diego, which could be beneficial for the Rose Quarter. And most importantly, Ron Wyden is on board, so maybe he can help get something done. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, it's time for our first set of goodies. We have a 4-pack of tickets for the Portland Thorns to see them take on Kansas City. That's going to be June 23rd at Providence Park. So if you'd like a 4-pack of tickets for Kansas City and Portland, June 23rd at Providence Park, call now. First caller through will get a 4-pack of tickets for the Thorns, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Call now, and Chris Burkhart will get your information, and you can go see Portland take on Kansas City. Willamina! 503-248-0620. All right. Sheridan! I'm down here in the Valley, Godfather, so I got to represent properly.
Yeah.
All right. I want to get to this statue thing with Bill Walton because the story is fascinating to me. You and I have talked about this at length and, before the passing of the great Bill Walton, but, we think the Blazers should set up the Rose Quarter in, partly an effort to make it more of a destination spot, but most importantly, to never forget the greats who have been a part of this organization from day one. And so what you can do, you and I have talked about this, where you can set up statues of former Trailblazer greats, including Jack Ramsey and Bill Schonely. Bill Walton, obviously, is one of them. Clyde Drexler, Damian Lillard. Like, there's different ways you could set it up. Each statue could have a plaque with a brief description of their what they brought to the franchise. I mean, it would be perfect, and I think people would like to see that. A lot of teams have done this, and I think the Trailblazers, with the way they honor their past and the way that they have retired jerseys, I'm just surprised they haven't done this yet, Godfather, but you're fully on board with them honoring the past with statues. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been ringing that bell now for a decade, probably, Chad. I just never understood why they didn't do it. And I thought they should have, as soon as Paul Allen died, there should have been one erected to him. I mean, he built that place. Goodness sakes, that city wouldn't have that arena without him. It's amazing to me.
Yes, and if they wanted to make Paul Allen the first statue that is put up at the Rose Quarter, I would fully embrace that because he's the reason why the Trailblazers are still there. He's responsible for the arena, and he was willing to spend any dollar amount that was necessary if he believed it was truly best for the franchise. So I've got nothing but respect for Paul and what he did during his course of time as the owner of the Trailblazers. Now, this story is a classic right here. Ron Wyden, who was friends with Bill Walton, the Oregon senator, he is calling the Trailblazers to erect a statue of Bill Walton outside of Moda Center, and he really wants to do that. He said, quote, "Can't stop thinking today about the passing of my friend Bill Walton and hoping a statue of him will soon be in the works outside Moda Center so he can always be remembered appropriately in Rip City." Now, this is where it gets interesting in the report that you sent over to me. Walton's hometown of San Diego has been notably unwelcoming to what is a 1,200-pound bronze statue of Bill Walton. It's the life-size 6'11" statue. It depicts Walton, who was an avid cyclist with his arms outstretched in front of a bicycle. The $200,000 statue was commissioned by a private group which attempted to donate the piece to the San Diego airport back in 2016. The airport's authority Art Advisory Committee rejected the offer, according to the San Diego Tribune. The committee told donors that it rejected the sculpture because it lacks, quote, "strong relevance to the public art collection, which is focused on commissioning original artworks that are seamlessly integrated into the airport environment." Since then, the statue has traveled around the greater San Diego area, Petco Park, the Valley View Casino Center, and Ski Beach Park in Mission Bay. The statue was mostly paid for by San Diego philanthropists Pat and Stephanie Kilkenny in honor of Walton's charitable work for the San Diego community. Walton's donations were often channeled through the Lucky Dog Foundation, which was founded by Kilkenny's family and named after their love of the Oregon Ducks, that according to the San Diego Tribune. But Godfather, how classic is that? The committee told donors that it rejected the sculpture of Walton because it lacks, quote, "strong relevance to the public art collection, which is focused on commissioning original artworks that are seamlessly integrated into the airport environment." Like, all it takes is a couple of yuppie do-gooders to come up with a statement like that. That's so ridiculous.
It makes no sense. Here, all that money was raised to do it. and they can't find a place to put that statue because I mean, Bill grew up in San Diego. It's his town. He still lived there. After all those years, Helix High School, all that. He's the San Diego guy, and he did so much for that community in the charity work he's done over the years. It just boggles my mind that they couldn't use it, but we could use it. Right?
Yes, Coin 6 reached out to the Lucky Duck about the possibility of the foundation loaning the already existing statue of Walton that's not wanted in San Diego near the airport to the Blazers organization or the city of Portland. Lucky Duck Foundation Chief Executive Officer Drew Mosier told Coin 6 that although the Walton family is currently dealing with other issues and following the death of Walton, it was something that the organization would look into. So they are open to it, and Pat Kilkenny said that he'll confer with the family at the appropriate time. So at least they're open to that idea. But, I mean, that's one example. That's one statue. It's life-size. That would be a way you could get – and once one statue gets put up in the Rose Quarter, that should get the ball rolling on getting other statues erected, right?
Absolutely, Chad. And I would say I know Pat Kilkenny a little bit. I've met him several times, and he will do the right thing. And Ducks know Pat Kilkenny. He's done so much. He's responsible for PK Park, basically. And the Ducks really starting the baseball program all came from Pat. And so I feel good that he's somehow involved in this because I think he recognized the relevance to the Trailblazers and how appreciated that piece of art would be, in the Rose Quarter. And I just think it would be wonderful. It's a life-size statue of Bill and a bicycle. Come on, what's more Portland than that? That's Portland right there, right?
Yes, and then what's cool about that is that every time someone heads over to Moda for a game, you have kids, you have Blazer fans, you have basketball fans, they would walk over to the statue and they would want to get pictures taken with the statue of Bill Walton, which, again, would continue to spread the love and support for Walton and what he meant to the franchise. It makes perfect sense to me. And then you get Walton out there, then you get Paul Allen, you get Shanley, you get the rest of the guys who need to be honored by the franchise. And then all of a sudden you've got this little walkthrough at the Rose Quarter, which makes it a destination point.
Absolutely.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. And I think the time is now to do this while it's a hot issue. And really, I think before Jody Allen sells this team, it should be done by her. I would not want to leave this to new ownership who may not understand the relevance of any of these people and just want to kind of do their own thing. But this thing should get done. And what more could you ask for that there's already a statue done? And it's actually a nice-looking statue, and it would be perfect. He doesn't need to be in a basketball uniform. In fact, it's almost better to have him not because of his relevance off the floor. And being next to the bicycle, of course, is great, too.
Yeah, I think it's something that should be done by Jody, and that's something to get on. And have you heard anything about a memorial yet for Bill or what they might do or what the Trailblazers are planning? Have you heard anything in relation to that?
I have not, Chad, but often in these situations, like the case of Maurice Lucas, of Jerome Kersey, there would be public ceremonies and then private ones. And I wouldn't be surprised if they put something together for Blazer fans and Bill Walton fans here in Portland, but then they would have maybe a family thing in San Diego or something like that, and maybe even something in Boston. I have no idea, but probably mostly just Portland and San Diego, and I think that would be appropriate to let people here pay tribute.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. They could have something. Well, I mean, we were talking to David Lucas about it. Do you think it's best at Moda Center, or should they do it at the Coliseum where they won the championship? What do you think would be the best setting for, a public memorial for Bill Walton for Blazer fans?
I think the Coliseum would be the best spot, really. That fits. And it's probably just perfect. It would be nice.
All right, so that's the latest. As soon as we get word on, what the Trailblazers have planned, what's going to be planned for a public memorial for Bill Walton, we'll get the word out, and we'll keep, our ears open for what's going to go down because we have no details. And last time I spoke with David Lucas, he had no details, but things are still in works because we're so fresh off the passing of Bill, which I think the majority of people were stunned by because no one knew that he was sick and he didn't go out of his way to tell anyone he had cancer. So we respect that, and we'll continue to listen. All right, a couple of things I wanted to run down with the game tonight, Game 5, Godfather. We've been talking about the series, but there were a few different things that you laid out in terms of what you're looking for tonight. So first off, we'll start from this. You think Dallas needs solid games from both Luka and Kyrie. So they struggled from the field in Game 4. What do you want to see from those two guys tonight, Luka and Kyrie?
Well, I think they both have to have good shooting nights. I don't know if they can survive with just one of them shooting the ball well, because I don't have a lot of confidence that the other players, the role players, would have big nights on the road. That's tougher for role players, especially in a game like this where there's going to be a heightened degree of pressure. But I don't know what to expect. And I talked about Karl Anthony Towns, and he had a good shooting night from 3 the other night. He got off right because he began the game shooting good, easy twos, going to the basket, setting himself up for makeable shots. But what's going to happen next with him? I have no idea, because I can't figure that guy out. He's been this player his whole career. Up one game, down another. Some nights looks like a unanimous all-star. The next night it's like, who is that guy? You just can't figure anything out with him. Do I think he's unlocked the secret to shooting the ball well the rest of the series? No, I doubt it. I don't think so. But who knows? And then Edwards. Chad, people were comparing him to Michael Jordan during the Denver series. It's like, let's just slow down on that stuff a little bit. Inconsistencies, wanting to be more than he is right now. They had a shot of him mic'd up with his team on the floor. Come on, guys, we got to rebound. And those guys looked at him, yeah, okay, whatever. We're the ones doing the rebounding. You just tend to your business. And it's like he's awfully young to be taking on things like that. And he's got to be more consistent with his shooting. There's just no question. I have no idea what to expect from him either. He thinks he's going to play well, but I think he thinks that every game, which he should. But it doesn't mean he's going to do it.
All right, so for Towns, his formula for success appeared to be not settling for threes early, being aggressive, and putting the ball on the floor and attacking the rim, getting some easy buckets to go down. And then as the game unfolded, he started to knock down some shots from outside. He was 4 or 5 from downtown.
Yeah.
Is that the right approach tonight? Start out attacking the basket and then look for opportunities at the perimeter behind the arc, or should he take the same approach? What's the best way for him to get off again tonight?
Yeah, I think doing the same thing, Chad, is always the smart thing if it worked for you. But can he resist the temptation when they leave him an open 3 early? Will he resist the temptation to shoot it? Well, I don't know. Maybe he should shoot it. He's on a little bit of a roll, like you said, 4 for 5 from three-point range. Maybe he should do that. It's just going to, you got to wait and see what happens in the game. But I hope he plays a smart game, because he commits so many stupid fouls. He is probably the worst fouler in the league for just committing nonsensical fouls. Fouls where, you can't foul a guy in situations like he does over and over. And he's sitting on the bench in the second half in foul trouble all the time. They can't afford that in these games.
All right, here's Karl Anthony Towns. Let's take a listen to what he had to say after Game 4.
Ain't no time to have any doubts. I'm going to go out there, be aggressive, shoot my shot like I've been doing all series, and be confident in every shot I shoot. So defensively, be in my spots. All I could think about was being in my spots earlier, make sure that I do as disciplined of defense as possible. And on the offensive end, don't lose any confidence and don't lose any aggression.
And you notice he said disciplined is possible on defense. Well, stop fouling all the time. It's pretty simple. But that's just a case of a guy. Usually you foul the dumb fouls. It's because you're out of position, right? And you reach.
And you said the D word. It's discipline. You can't allow yourself to do that. You just have to resist the temptation to reach in and do something stupid, or to jump at a guy shooting a shot and either sail past him or foul him on the way by. That kind of stuff just doesn't fly. We're here deep in the playoffs. You can't be doing that.
Here's Anthony Edwards giving a shout out. I think that may be Conley.
Y'all got any questions for Mike? Nobody want to ask me about Mike? Bye.
How about Mike, especially in the first half? It seemed like he really
is old as and and he was getting downhill, laying the ball up. So shout out to Bite, and he coming in here with these clown pants on. So y'all about to see him in a minute, but that's my OG, that's my point guard. He played great tonight, and I couldn't ask nothing more from him. So thank you, Mike Conley.
There you go. I love Edwards in the way he respects Conley, because Conley deserves respect for being around the league as long. He understands. It's been a unique pairing because Ant, he's the young guy that can jump out of the gym. He's got all the talent in the world, and you got Conley who plays the game a certain way and much older, has so much experience, but it's been a good pairing in the way that the team and the coaching staff's gotten those guys to gel together in the backcourt. It's impressive.
Yeah, and, I'd like to see Conley have the ball in the fourth quarter a little more than he does, because I think he's going to do something smart with it. He's not always going to score. He's not going to – I think he made threes better a couple of years ago than he is now. He's on the tail end of this whole ride for him. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks away if they get to the finals. But at any rate, he's the smartest player on their team and the most experienced. He should be having the ball in those clutch situations that they've botched up so many times.
Oh, by the way, I did you're right. The Edwards comparisons to MJ are silly. I went back and watched. I got stuck in YouTube mode last night. I went from music, and then I jumped into sports. I watched Game 4 of the 1993 NBA Finals, the Suns and Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan dropped 55 in that game. I can assure you with all of my heart that Anthony Edwards, as great as he is, he's not MJ. Not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, these comparisons that get thrown out, like, oh, he's the next MJ, or I see a lot of Kobe in him. It's like, I mean, come on. Let's just slow down and allow a guy to grow a little bit before we start dropping the names of guys like MJ. It's just maddening to me. We got to slow it down. Yeah. I mean, I hate the fact that the greats that I grew up watching who were unbelievable, their names get pulled into these conversations. Let's let Edwards grow a little bit before we start, conjuring up the names of guys like MJ. Godfather, it's madness.
It is, totally. And, Chad, I have two more thoughts on this game tonight. Number one is I kind of had that feeling during Game 4. The Wolves did not want to be embarrassed by getting swept. And I think they summoned up a lot of energy and a lot of emotion to win that game. Whether they can duplicate it tonight is what I'm going to be looking for. They've got to have that same vigor in the way they play. And either way, no matter what happens, I'm sure the Celtics are rooting for the Timberwolves tonight, because the longer that series goes, the better chance they have to feast on one more tired, fatigued, and maybe even injured team.
So you think it could be a concern that Minnesota shot their wad in Game 4 just to get back in the series, and then tonight they could fall flat a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll keep things rolling. The best conversations coming up next. College Football 25. Oh, it's so good. We'll talk about the report that's out on the game, what you're going to expect, and the greatness, which is NCAA football on video game. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, great news. We're going to get NCAA football back, which is one of the all-time ultimate video games. Yes! And Burkhart, feel free to jump in anywhere you want, but the Godfather sent down a great breakdown, and what they've got right now is that the video game is not finished, Godfather, but they've allowed some reviewers to come in and do some gameplay. They were not able to access the Dynasty mode, but they were able to come in and play the game and be able to do their reviews. And this took 4 years to build after an 11-year absence. Wow. But now with name, image, and likeness back into the mix, the players are getting paid for it, for their name, image, and likeness, which has allowed the video game to come back. And now everyone's going to get to enjoy it. So based on the review that I read through that you sent over, in regards to offense, running the football, according to the reviewer, is fun, and you're rewarded for hitting the hole. And apparently the AI blocking in the run game is super legit. So that's nice because you want to have balance on offense. Also, in regards to the passing playbook, college offenses over the last 11 years have changed a ton, obviously. So they've got a lot of the RPOs and the quick passing game. And according to the guys who had a chance to play it, the passing game is going to require a little bit more skill where you're going to have to layer your throws, meaning you're going to have to throw it over the top of a linebacker in front of the safety and make sure you're on point or you're going to get picked off. And then the cool thing is that you've got the RPOs where you can see what the defense is doing, be able to get rid of the football, get it out of your hand quick. And according to the guys who played it, they said, make sure you don't hold on to the football too long or you'll get a penalty for illegal downfield blocking, which is amazing to me. So that's what I love about the technology now, Godfather, whether it's, Madden or some of the other games now, is that it really is getting closer to lifelike because that's the way football is played. On certain plays, you can't hold on to the ball or your quarterback's going to get blasted, or you'll get penalized for an illegal block downfield. I love that because it brings strategy and the way the game is played into the mix, which is nice. And also, guys, the injuries and the fatigue that are filtered into the game through AI becomes a real factor as well. A couple of other interesting notes. Sights and sounds are pretty much matched perfectly for each school, although because of some of the costs that are involved with licensing, with music, Jump Around is not on the game for Wisconsin, and Inner Sandman, which is played at Vautech, is not available because apparently licensing Metallica songs is very expensive. The pre-snap options, I guess there's a huge variety of pre-snap options in terms of being able to change the play and understand what the defense is doing. And veteran quarterbacks are able to see more and have a better understanding of what's going down based on their experience. And that's where we're at. So the game sounds like it's going to be epic. And Burkhart, I don't know where you stand on this, but for me, my favorite video game all time on the home console is NCAA football. It's my favorite. The Dynasty mode is awesome. And not just playing the game, but the whole recruiting process, which is amazing to me.
Well, here's the thing is you done messed up and you made this a short segment because I could fill an entire hour talking about NCAA football. It is actually, Chad, the only sports video game I ever bought religiously brand new day it came out, right? I love NBA 2K, but I always wait till that one goes on sale. Not worth the full $60 to me, but NCAA football, oh my goodness, love it. And I've got some, not too much info that you didn't just say, actually, but I do have a friend. I've known this game has been coming for 6 years because I have a friend who works at EA who's been working on this game. So I have been hyped for a very, very long time.
When's it
That's
coming
great.
out, guys? Do you know when it's coming out?
July.
Wow.
So it's going to be here before you know it. My favorite was the Dynasty mode. Obviously I grew up in Oklahoma, so I would be the Sooners. But, the last version I had, which I think was 08, I got tired of playing the Sooners, so I went ahead and transferred and took a job at Tulsa, and I developed the Golden Hurricanes into a powerhouse. But the one thing that would tick me off is when I would create a prospect, like a quarterback or a different type of player, and then you have to go into the recruiting season and recruit that player. Sometimes the player would choose a different school after I went through all the trouble to build the prospect, and a lot of times they would choose in conference. I'd have to face them every year, and I hated that. I was like, wait a second. I built you with my bare hands, and you're going to a different school, you loser.
Little Chad doing with scoring touchdowns on you.
Yes. Yes.
Now, what
but
I've
that's
been doing, Chad, for the last like 2-3 years now is there's a group of people who put together a community on the PC called College Football Revamped. And the last edition of the game, NCAA 14, I have that game up to date with updated rosters, updated uniforms, everything to the nines tricked out because modders have spent so much time on it. And the game still plays so well.
Yeah, it's the best, man. I love it, and I can't wait for it to hit. And I know a lot of you college football fans are down with the game. I certainly am. And, Godfather, I know that this game came, after your time. But, what makes this game great goes back to what you said. The sports games that first came out like on the Intellivision or Atari or that were even in the arcade back in the 80s, they just didn't have the ability with the graphics and the technology to be able to make the game lifelike enough. It was just like a bunch of blobs out there running around, and it was no fun. It was too hard.
Yeah, I remember little dots running up and down the field.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
No, it's ridiculous. So now it's like, we're talking about, and then not only that, but in terms of detail, like, obviously with the different uniform combinations, there's a minimum of 4 different combinations for every school. So you can pick and choose the most current uniforms. I mean, you can basically nerd out on it. So that's really what it's all about, is that the detail now is so terrific and the game is so lifelike, and the stadium and all the different sites for the schools are to scale. So you when you go through the dynasty mode, you're literally living out as close to lifelike as an experience as you can imagine.
Yeah,
and it will be fun this year.
They did the full-on, Chad. They sent people out, and they made sure that in this game, like the bands sit in the right section, the student sections are in the right section, visiting sections are in the right section. You would see them in that stadium if you were there. I mean, they put time into this.
I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. When we come back, we got 2 4-packs of tickets to give away for the Portland E pre-race. Your chance to win is next. Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 5 o'clock chat here. Western Conference Finals will continue in Minnesota tonight. The Wolves able to keep that series alive with a Game 4 win in Dallas. Here's Chris Finch talking about his squad.
Credit to our guys. They found a way to win a game. You know, it's a lot like games 1 and 2, and we were able to get it done tonight.
And Wolves favored by 4.5. That tip-off on TNT at 5:30. Jalen Waddle agrees to a 3-year extension with the Dolphins that includes $76 million in guaranteed money. Oregon State will meet Tulane in the Corvallis Regional tomorrow. First pitch at 6. It's on 1190 KEX and also ESPN2. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad will continue next. We have a 4-pack of tickets times 2. 2 4-packs to give away for the Portland E-Pre race coming up at PRIR. Your chance to win is next. Well, I definitely think that mentioning College Football 25 by EA Sports inspired Chris Burkhardt to play the Oregon fight song.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you 2 reasons why I'm a dum-dum, and there's a long list, but 2 of the reasons. Number 1, I actually thought that Yogi Berra was named after Yogi the Bear, and actually it's the other way around. So that's one reason why I'm an idiot. Also, Burkhardt was a drum major at the University of Oregon. I always assumed that the drum major just played the drums, but apparently that's not the case. So there's reason number 2, I'm an idiot.
You didn't
I
think
did.
that? Really?
No, they call him a drum major. Why wouldn't you play the drums? Like when Burkhardt told me they didn't play the drums, I was like, what are you talking about?
Oh, Chris, what are we going to do with this guy?
It's okay. It happens way more than you think.
Really?
Gosh, I am an idiot. Like I just assumed for so long, I'm like, oh, Yogi Berra got his name off Yogi Bear. And then we found out yesterday, thanks to our good friend Chris Burkhardt, that it was Hanna-Barbera, the cartoon maker, that stole Yogi's name and gave it to Yogi the Bear. Well, I'm dumb. But I'm seriously, why do they call it a drum major, though? Seriously. If you're not playing the drums, why is it called drum major?
Chris, tell him.
You know, there's so much behind it. All I know is I lead the band. I don't play drums. That's all you need to know.
He's the man in the front row.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I don't want you to answer this question, but I want you to answer it. Are you ashamed to do a show with me from time to time, Godfather, based on my superior intellect?
No. We're both a couple of dum-dums, believe me. You know a lot of stuff I don't know a thing about, so you're way
Yeah, but all the stuff I know is like useless information about a bunch of nonsense. Oh, my goodness.
Your music knowledge is incredible. If they ever have a musical version of Jeopardy, you're the man.
Oh, speaking of that, okay, you might want to check out, I'll send you the link, but my buddy Derek sent me over a link to it was another video from Rick Beato, he's like got the greatest YouTube channel on music, but he sat down with Jay Graydon and a couple other key session musicians from the 70s and 80s, and it's like an hour-long conversation, but they were talking about working with Steely Dan and Al Jarreau and John Williams and all the different work that they did, and they each pull out the guitars and, you know, kind of explain how they played some of the popular parts and how they bended notes and stuff, and it's just mind-blowing. So I'll send that over to you because it's fabulous. Also, I learned something else last night when I was stuck in YouTube mode, a quick little music deal. So, you know, I've been listening to a lot of yacht rock lately because it's now yacht rock season starting with Memorial Day weekend. But you know that great song with James Ingram and Michael McDonald, Yamo Be There?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the song apparently was supposed to be titled Yahweh, which is another reference for God, Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton. You know, the Jewish people don't even like to say Yahweh. They just say the name because they have such reverence and respect for the name. But it was supposed to say Yahweh Be There. But Quincy Jones and a couple others who were working on the song, they were afraid that the title with Yahweh in it might scare people away because it was too religious or spiritually based, so they changed it to Yamo Be There. That's what I learned about that song.
Huh.
So there's another fun fact of music for you right there, which, by the way, the song is phenomenal because the vocals with Ingram and McDonald together, the way they blend, fabulous song. Would you not agree?
Oh, for sure. And McDonald can blend with anybody, right? Don't you think? I mean, with that voice that he has.
He's one of those guys where it's like he can make it work with anybody. Yeah. Like I think anyone in music would love to work with Michael McDonald because he's so versatile in terms of everything that he can do. And he sounds good. I haven't heard a situation where McDonald's singing and he's working with someone where it's not good, right?
For sure.
All right.
Hey,
so there you go.
Chad, before you move forward, just so you know, drum major. Okay, you ready for this?
Yes.
You got to go back to like 1600s British armies. The drum majors were responsible for conducting the music of the drum corps, right? And protecting said drummers in war, because back then the drums were used as communication devices. So whatever song was being played on the drums could signal to the rest of the army what, battle position or what they're supposed to be doing at that time. So the drum major name and all that association does connect to drummers, but it connects back to the old British military.
Man, back-to-back days where you're dropping knowledge on us, Burkhart.
I'm like Stat Boy on Pardon the Interruption. Remember when Tony Reali, that's all he did was just correct him and bring the heat? That's what I do.
Now, how many people out there listening do you think knew what Burkhart just said?
Nobody.
No one?
No. That's pretty obscure.
All right. Okay. We have 2 4-packs of tickets to give away for the E-Pre-Race, which is coming to PIR. So we want to give you a chance to see it. In fact, it's coming to PIR on June 30th, which is Sunday. You can get your tickets now at FIAFormulaE.com. So we'll take the first 2 callers through. First 2 callers through at 503-248-0620 will get a 4-pack of tickets for the Portland E-Pre-Race at PIR. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. So fire away right now. Chris will get your information, and you're going to be dialed in for the E-Pre-Race. And, Godfather, I still can't believe that they are able to drive, that they've created electric cars that can move that fast. It's mind-blowing to me.
It is,
the
totally.
power.
Yeah. You get the whole F1 race without the sound effects is what I understand.
Yes.
They're fine.
All right. So, yes, exactly. Okay, so we have a brief Bo Nix update because I'm in too deep right now with Bo Nix, Godfather, because I'm paying attention to the guys I know in Denver, and I'm trying to get as many reports as I can. But they've got their OTAs that are going on right now. So we know that Nix last week struggled a bit with accuracy as he's trying to figure things out. So maybe his accuracy last week wasn't as sharp as you would have expected it to be. So they're looking for Bo Nix to make strides in the accuracy department this week. Also, the train of thought around Broncos camp right now is that you can put him in situations to face more pressure with designed pass rushes being thrown at him. But here's the very good thing, Godfather. So far in the OTAs last week and this week, according to reports, and the people who have seen him with their own eyes, shown very nimble feet in the pocket. He's also been climbing the pocket and going through his progressions, and he has not been quick to bail out of the pocket when facing pressure, which was one of the knocks or minor concerns on Nix when he was coming into the draft as a college prospect. And you know those traits right there, Godfather, in terms of nimble feet in the pocket, going through your progressions, and then also climbing the pocket to put yourself in a position along with your blockers to be able to extend the play. Climbing the pocket is critical. And for him to be showcasing those skills in OTAs, I think is important because those are things that you can coach that, but a lot of that feel for the pocket, the climbing of the pocket, having a sense of what's going on around you, I think a lot of that for the great quarterbacks is just innate. It's kind of built into their system, and that's something that the guys who do it at a high level, you either have that or you don't. So I think it's a very good sign that Bo is showing that type of presence in the pocket early on in OTAs. And that's something that I think if you're a Bronco fan or a Bo Nix fan, you should have some excitement about as they continue to move forward through OTAs. So I love hearing that. That makes me happy.
A question about that, Chad, though. Is that pressure he's seeing, is that like real pressure? Because these are non-contact drills, and, it's not the same probably as seeing those monsters coming at you with some vengeance in their hearts.
Yeah, guys who are crazy that want to put you on your back and destroy you. Yes, it's not the same. It's simulated pressure, and, of course, you can't hit the quarterback in OTAs. But again, you're still in a pocket that is collapsing around you. So seeing how a guy reacts to that, feeling the guy's getting pushed up on you and knowing what to do. And that was part of the problem with Russ in Sean Payton's offense last year, is that instead of climbing the pocket and trusting your offensive lineman, he was quick to bail out and try to buy time when you don't need to buy time. And then all of a sudden the offensive linemen don't know where you're at. They'll let up on a block, and before you know it, you're giving up on a play and taking a sack that you shouldn't be taking. And quarterbacks who operate from the pocket, and this is why, we talk about this all the time with the great quarterbacks. Like Patrick Mahomes, he can move, he can scramble, he can take off and pick up first downs with his legs, but he's dominating the game from the pocket first, and that means trusting the offensive line, trusting your blocks, climbing the pocket, and manipulating the game from the pocket. That's what the best quarterbacks do.
Yeah.
The other stuff, being able to escape pressure and pick up first downs with your legs, when things break down, that's great. And it's nice to be able to have that skill, and Bo Nix does, but learning how to work from the pocket first before you're quick to bail out and use your athleticism, I think that's key. And, in fact, what's the one criticism about Lamar Jackson? It's about him, continuing to evolve as a passer from the pocket to dominate the game from the pocket, because you've got to have that skill to be an elite quarterback, because especially as you age in the game and you don't have the athleticism and the quickness you once did, but you can stand in the pocket and climb the pocket until you're 35, 36, 37 years old. So I think it's good that he's doing that. Now, once the live bullets start flying in Seattle in the first week of the season, all that stuff could be out the window. But he's showing the traits that you want to see from a young quarterback in those type of situations in OTAs.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah, and you expect his accuracy to get a little bit better, don't you?
Well, of course. I think anytime you got a young guy in a brand-new offense who is going through that crash course of trying to learn everything and adjust everything, like, it's not easy. And so that's why you're seeing him being pushed a little bit by Jared Stidham, and you're seeing in some cases the guys with experience being a little bit more comfortable in certain situations because they've been there and done that. And Bo Nix just needs more time and more reps, and he'll continue to get there. And then you know how it works. All of a sudden you're not thinking about the play, and instead you're playing more off a feel and just reacting, and that's where the accuracy will start to pop.
Yeah, and he doesn't know these receivers for the most part either.
No.
Two guys run the same pattern, and they're not going to be in the same spot when it's time to throw,
No, for the last 2 years, it's a great point. He's had the same guys in the huddle. He's worked with primarily the same guys on offense at Oregon, and now all of a sudden you're in a new team, in a new league with a lot of pressure, and you're learning your new offensive linemen, your backs, your receivers, and not only that, but it's not like those young guys know exactly where they need to be too, so you're also relying on them to get up to speed. So it's just a crash course mission right now to try and absorb as much as possible during OTAs so that you're ready to hit the ground running once camp starts. And that's not easy, but he's showing some of the little things that you want to see in a quarterback now, that meaning if you do those things now, as you continue to build and grow in the offense, and you're doing the things that you've got the basics down in terms of how to react in the pocket, climb the pocket, and go through your progressions. But once you have that down, as you continue to develop, that will become natural, and then the offense will work the way Sean Payton wants it to. That's what's exciting about it.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's the latest on Bo Nix. And I'm sure I'll have another Bo Nix update tomorrow, the next day, as we continue to work through this.
We didn't play the theme music today, though. You had to go without the intro.
No, because it's a mini Bo Nix update. This is not a full-fledged, just a mini update.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah, but there you go. That's what I got on Bo Nix. But he's progressing, and again, I'm trying to remain. What do they call that? Cautiously optimistic, Godfather.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too excited. I'm trying to remain cautiously optimistic, because I don't want to get too excited before he's played a game in the NFL. But I like what I'm hearing about him and his approach and the way he's working right now from the guys that are seeing him in his short work as a Broncos quarterback right now. He's doing some of the good things.
Chad, one other thing I was going to add, as a journalist who knows a little about the game, not a lot, you can sit at practice and watch these things, and guys are throwing, not against real defense, but, kind of against air to a degree. And I remember asking particularly a coach in college, I said, what about that one pass he threw that was so overthrown? What happened on that? How could he make a bad throw like that? And the coach said, he didn't. Somebody was supposed to be there. And it's like, okay, everybody's sitting there thought, what a horrendous throw that was. But if you're in the inner circle and you know what it's supposed to be, you have no idea how that throw was supposed to look and where the receiver was supposed to be. So it's really hard to judge from the sidelines exactly how it's going,
Exactly. In fact, I've got a good example of that. I think it was Super Bowl, I want to say Super Bowl 34. It was that game with the Rams and the Titans that came down to the final play. Yeah. And the Rams ended up winning the game, and Kurt Warner got a Super Bowl championship. But that final play of the game where the clock ran out, Kevin Dyson caught a pass from Steve McNair and got down to like the half-inch line, and he extended out, but he couldn't get the ball over the plane, and they lost by 7, 23-16, I think it was the final. Well, Lo Neal was on the Titans team, and I worked with Lo, and what he told me was that no one would know unless they were on the team is that the reason why Dyson didn't score, the play was there, and it was the right play call, and it was there to be had, but he said that Dyson cut off his route too soon and didn't run at the right depth, and because he did not run a precise route and he was just a little bit off, that's what allowed the defense to get to him and get the tackle before he could cross the plane with the football. It was the wrong route. We're talking about just by a fraction of an inch, he was off on his cut and his move, and the football was delivered on time, but because the route was not precise, he didn't score, and the Rams won the championship. And he said, Lowe said, it's frustrating as a player when that kind of stuff happens in a game because they practice it over and over and over again. Yeah. And, these plays, and this is what makes football so crazy, is that it's so precise in terms of a route tree and each and every play, and all it takes is one player just being slightly out of position for everything to go awry. You've got 11 guys on the field, one guy's just a little bit off in his movement, and then boom, the play doesn't work the way it's designed. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I remember John Madden's frustration doing games, watching a game one time where it was like a 4th and 1. They just needed half a yard or something, and it came up short just like that. And he said, how could you run a no-yard pass when you need 1 yard? It was like they ran a no-yard pass because he caught the ball behind the line. He couldn't get there,
No doubt. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. Chris Burkhardt, Dwight James, Chad doing with you. When we come back, we got more football. ESPN's got their power index out with their Super Bowl projections. So we'll tell you who the leading teams are to win the championship this year. Not too many surprises. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
And then also they've got their projected draft order in 2025, which could be very beneficial to Bo Nix. So we'll explain that. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, Godfather. ESPN has got their updated football power index, or their FPI, and they have it put out in terms of the favorites to win the next Super Bowl. The football power index is ESPN's ratings and projection model for NFL teams. In the preseason, the model's overall predictive ratings are based primarily on win totals from ESPN Bet in conjunction with each team's schedule, along with factors such as the strength difference between a team's starting and backup quarterback, and a revamped special team rating based primarily on new predictive kicker ratings. And we use these team ratings to simulate the season thousands of times, creating their projections. During the season, ratings evolve based on how the team performs on offense, defense, and special teams, along with quarterback performance and changes. In addition to updated ratings, game predictions are also affected by home field advantage and rest differentials. So right now, in regards to their favorites, the 49ers check in at number 1, followed by the Chiefs, the Lions, the Cowboys, Ravens, Eagles, Bills, Bengals, and Packers. And I guess really the only surprise there is, why are the 49ers the favorite to win the championship in ESPN's FPI model instead of the Kansas City Chiefs? And I dug a little bit deeper, and I guess it makes sense. The only reason why the Chiefs are second behind the 49ers is because of the quality of the conference. Obviously, Kansas City, to get through and get to the Super Bowl, they have to worry about teams like Buffalo. They have to worry about teams like Baltimore. I mean, take your pick. The Chargers are going to be on the rise. The quality of football in the AFC is significant compared to the NFC, and the 49ers, of course, only have to worry about one or two teams that can make a legitimate push. So that's really the bottom line there.
Yeah, I get that. It's just how many times in a row does Kansas City have to get there, and show that they can handle their own conference. And I don't know. To me, as long as there weren't major trades made or somebody retired or something like that, man, I put the defending champs up there on top.
Well, so do I, and I think the majority of people would. In fact, if you put the Chiefs and 49ers on the field again right now for another Super Bowl, I think the majority of people would pick the Chiefs once again to win. And, I guess really, just look at the quality of teams right now in the AFC. In the East, you've got the Bills and the Dolphins. We'll see what the Jets become and what Aaron Rodgers can do, but you got 2 or 3 teams in the East who could challenge. In the North, you've got the Ravens and the Bengals. We'll see what the Browns and Steelers can do, but those are both teams that could challenge for the playoffs. In the South, the Houston Texans are now a legitimate threat. The Colts had a productive year last year and missed the playoffs just by a game. Jacksonville's got a legitimate coach and quarterback. And then in the West, you've got Kansas City and the L.A. Chargers. So multiple teams. But in the NFC, what do you got? In the West, you got the 49ers, who are the dominant team in the division. We'll see if the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks can challenge. In the South, I don't think it really matters. Not a legitimate contender there. You've got Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay, but none of those 4 would be considered a legitimate Super Bowl threat at this time. In the North, you've got the Lions and Packers. And then in the East, you've got the Cowboys and the Eagles. So it's just a quality of conference. But I just refuse to bet against Patrick Mahomes. In fact, until he is no longer playing football, I will stop predicting the Chiefs to be in the Super Bowl because if he's healthy and doesn't suffer injury, I just with him and Andy Reid together, and that was supposed to be a down year for the Chiefs last year, but now more experience in their young receivers, more time in the offense, and then you've got the that connection between we were talking about continuity. What about the continuity of the Chiefs with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes? It doesn't get any better than that.
Yep,
the best.
Yeah, I just think Detroit, and I hate to say this, Dallas could be a roadblock to the 49ers. I'm not saying that Dallas would go in and beat them in the conference championship game, but they could get them early enough to where they could maybe Dallas could stumble into a first-round playoff win. But I don't know. It's tough. Philly's there. I don't know what's left of them. I have to see it on the field, I guess.
All right, well, with ESPN's favorites to win the championship, they also, with their FPI, have the projected draft order for 2025. Right now, 1 through 5, New England at 1, Carolina at 2, not a surprise because both those teams are depleted in talent and young. Denver at 3, followed by the Titans, Commanders, and Giants. I'll tell you what, this could be a golden situation for Denver because right now they're getting ready to enter a year where Bo Nix is a rookie and they're going to have a chance to get him experience, Godfather.
Yeah.
And then based on how it goes in terms of wins and losses, and now that they've got all their draft picks back, they could be in a position where they get Bo Nix a lot of experience in year number 1. Then you enter the draft, and they've got a lot of high-quality draft picks with a full slate of picks after the Seahawks trade, and all of a sudden you're able to continue to load up that roster with talent around Bo. Like Nix is sitting in a very good position, 1, because he's with Sean Payton, but 2, because Denver now moving forward is going to have a stockpile of picks, and potentially based on how the year goes, they could have another top 10 pick to be able to add to their roster, which is huge, and that means better second and third round picks to continue to flesh things out. I like that. That's got to be exciting for Bo Nix to know that he's in a position to grow, but also for the team to get better around him.
So, do you expect them to be the third worst team in the league?
I don't know. I mean, what did they win last year? 8 games?
Yeah.
Well, let's assume, like, if they start Bo Nix, I mean, can they have a surprisingly awesome season like we saw with C.J. Stroud in Houston last year?
Could happen.
And what would you expect for wins and losses for Bo if he plays the full year from day one?
Well,
I
would say
6
this.
wins, 7 wins?
Yeah, I would say this, Chad. They didn't exactly get tremendous quarterback play last year, and they still won 8 games, which I think is a testimony to Sean Payton's coaching ability. Because they didn't have a lot. And I think if he steps up and plays a little better than expected, yeah, they could win 8 again. I think that could happen.
Well, it just depends on Bo. I mean, really, if Bo comes out and has a C.J. Stroud-type rookie season, then all bets are off. They could exceed all expectation. It just comes down to Bo. How quickly is he going to play? Is it game 1? How quickly does he develop? How quickly does he start to master things? Like that. I mean, all bets are off. If you cash in on the right quarterback and he starts to play big-time football like we saw with Stroud last year, all bets are off. I just don't expect that. I guess that could happen. I mean, my hopes for this year is that Bo plays from day one, that he gets all the experience that he can possibly want through 17 games, and that he shows flashes of what's to come. I don't expect big things in terms of wins and losses. I just want him to get the experience so that moving forward, year 2 and on, he can continue to develop into the quarterback that Sean Payton thinks he can be. But if he wants to come out and ball out like C.J. Stroud did last year, I'm all about that. Well, I wouldn't complain. Is
their defense going to be good enough to play that well?
The defense is going to be good, yes.
Yeah.
Dominant, I'm not going to say that, but the defense will be good. They bolstered the defensive line, so they're going to be better against the run. They started to get things together. They were better secondary-wise as the season went along last year. So, yeah, they should be better defensively than they were last year. So that's where it comes down to Bo, where, depending on how you set up the offense, like if he's just a point guard where you're running the football and putting him in a position to have success without turning it over, and your defense plays well, really that's what it comes down to. If you're playing a young quarterback, if he doesn't turn it over and you're not putting your defense in a bad spot, then you're going to have a chance to win games, because then the games will be close and you can have a chance to win them in the end. But usually when you play a young quarterback, that comes with turnovers. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to quarterback play, Godfather.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect from Bo in year 1. I don't know. I mean, most of the young quarterbacks I've seen struggle and have to go through the issues that you have as a young quarterback as you're figuring things out. And then with experience, you start to correct some of those mistakes, and that's when the bigger plays come into play. Now, C.J. Stroud, he's probably more of a unicorn, right? Because he came out last year and was just dominant from start to finish. And no one expected that. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I don't expect that type of year from Bo.
No. That's not fair.
I don't know what to expect, Godfather. I guess I just want Bo to develop.
That's why.
I don't care. I don't care about the wins and losses. I just care about Bo developing, because he could play well and show flashes of brilliance, and they still don't win many games. But that doesn't mean that he's not developing into the quarterback you want him to become, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to judge the team based off of wins and losses. I'm going to judge the team based off of, Bo's development. Is he picking up in the offense? Is he delivering the football on time? Is he limiting turnovers? Is he protecting the football? Is he making the right reads? And is he making progress from game one up until the end of the season? That's how I'm going to judge the season, because it's all about the quarterback. And if he's making that type of progress, regardless of what their win-loss record is at the end of the year, then I can step back and say, okay, Sean Payton knew what he was talking about. They've got a quarterback of the future, and now they can continue to build the roster around him. What you don't want will be a situation where he comes out, he looks lost, the team is getting pummeled, and Bo Nix looks lost out there where he's making mistake after mistake after mistake. And as the season progresses, you don't see the type of progress you want, and then Peyton gets frustrated and benches him in favor of one of these other, bums like Stidham or Wilson, and then that stunts the growth of Bo Nix. Like, that would be a disaster.
Yeah, I think, though, too, it's important to recognize the fact that a lot of the really good ones didn't have a first year if they played a lot the first year, We talked about Manning a couple days ago, whenever it was. Yeah, a couple days ago, I guess, about how bad his first year was. And, the C.J. Stroud thing, I just hope that doesn't set some kind of a high bar for these rookies where people expect that to happen all the time, because it's really not going to,
Yeah, and I guess it just depends on the team. Like Ben Roethlisberger had a tremendous rookie season with the Steelers where they won a ton of games, but they weren't asking him to do too much. Like, he would make a couple of plays, but they ran the football, they played good defense, and Roethlisberger didn't make the big mistake. And maybe that's going to be Peyton's approach early on where, much like we saw in the Patriots documentary Dynasty, where, remember early on with Tom Brady, they weren't asking him to do a ton.
Yeah.
He would have to make a couple of plays a game, but they were running the football, playing defense. And then as the season went along, when he first got a chance to play, and again, he wasn't a rookie, that was his second year, but that's when Belichick started to give him a little bit more to work with, where they would ask him to do a little bit more as they gained confidence in his decision-making and his ability. So, I don't know. Like Peyton Manning said, there's no perfect answer, right? Like he said, he goes, he had all kinds of struggles. They went 3-13, and he threw like 28 picks, but he said without that experience, we wouldn't have been able to rebound to go 13-3 in year two.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I think it's even fair to wonder if you won't see Stroud with just a little bit of regression. Things went so well for him that people forget how inexperienced he was. And
yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I don't see that with him because he's so great. He was he was awesome last year. He was awesome throughout the entire season, and even in that first playoff game against the Browns, he was dynamite. And then he ran up against a better team in Baltimore in the divisional round. I just think C.J. Stroud's. I believe he's a budding superstar. He blew me away. I think he blew a lot of people away. I thought he was going to be terrible, and then he came out and just, boom, he got it from day one. And not too many quarterbacks can say they got it from day one, but he did. He looked special to me. I mean, you thought he looked special to you, right, Stroud?
Yeah, I liked him in the draft, actually. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you liked him coming out? You thought he was going to be good?
I thought he was going to be better than the other guy for sure. Yeah, just off what I saw.
Hey, Burkhart, what did you think about Stroud coming out?
I actually did not trust him at all. I thought he put up good college numbers, looked good. I thought he was going to fall flat, and he proved me wrong, and I don't mind being proved wrong when a player plays like that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, that's what it was, Godfather, was, the way I thought, like a lot of people's like, here's Stroud, big quarterback, played at Ohio State, surrounded by elite talent. So he was the benefactor of being surrounded by so many great players. And then he came out last year with the Texans and proved them wrong. Yeah. That was impressive.
I always like the big guys with big arms. That's always the guy I like coming out, and I've always been partial to those guys.
Well, most traditionalists in football, they don't heck, Elway struggled with this too. He couldn't. He just grew up with a certain, quarterback type in his mind. Big guy, about 6'3", 6'4", that can, stand up and throw the football, with power. And that's why a guy like Elway would have a hard time looking at someone like Kyler Murray and saying, yeah, that's my guy, because it doesn't fit the type. And, I grew up with those type of quarterbacks too, that the traditional 6'3", 6'4" guy that can, make throws all across the field and be able to do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see how things shake out. But I just want Bo to play from day one. That's my wish. I don't want to see Stidham or Wilson. I just want Bo from day one. And if I get that and he's up there playing in Seattle for day one, I'll be happy with that. And then we can see how the progression goes. And you don't appear to care. You don't appear to care one way or the other. So
no, what are you talking about? I'd love for him to play from day one. That's you gotta want that. If you want him to develop, he's got to play. He's got to play, and he's smart enough. He's played enough games. God, the guy's got a huge college career behind him. He's got to play that first year, or I'd have my doubts. If he can't beat out those two guys, I would have my doubts. I think he's ready to do that.
Okay, we're going to come back. We got to pay tribute to Tommy Lasorda. Did he actually get a mascot kicked out of a game, Godfather?
Yeah, out of the whole ballpark, yeah. Tommy always hated the mascots. He messed with them all the time.
Tommy Lasorda was a beauty. So we'll share that story, hand out some high fives. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, Godfather, I'll start with you. You got any high fives you want to hand out today?
Yeah, Chad, I certainly do. I'm going to hand it out to the Minnesota Timberwolves just to kind of make them feel better and hope, give them a little momentum going into tonight's game.
All right, Burkhart, you got any high fives you want to hand out?
Just because you got me jazzed, I'm giving my high five to EA Sports College Football.
That's a good one.
And I haven't even played it yet.
And I want to, that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to hand mine out to Jack Dunn, who turned 95, for being a great coach, a great man, and still living life to the fullest, Godfather.
Great one. Perfect.
All right, so you did confirm then 1 o'clock shotgun start on Saturday. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, good. All right. I'm ready, Nancy. You and I can go out there and dominate. We're pumped and ready to rock. All right, I want to play this. You want to set this up, Godfather? I got some audio here of Tommy Lasorda doing Tommy Lasorda things. So this is up in Montreal, Dodgers and Expos, and I guess Lasorda took issue with Youppi. Is that correct?
Youppi was the name of the mascot, and he apparently was dancing on the roof of the Dodger dugout. And for some reason, that bothered Tommy no end. He got really upset about that, and he just wasn't going to have it, and complained to the umpires, and by golly, the umpires got something done about it.
Well, let's take a listen.
Time is called. They want Youppi off the Dodger dugout. He's bugging the Dodger players, and Tom Lasorda is out. And third base umpire Bob Davidson is throwing Youppi out of the ball game. He wants him off the Dodger dugout. Tommy Lasorda has put up a complaint. This will draw the ire of the fans. And they want Buck Rogers out to get Youppi out of there. Buck is sitting down. Here comes Davidson running over, and Buck's going to make Davidson come over and say, what do you, or no, they're calling somebody from security over.
They're going to call security and remove him from the ballpark.
Wow. We've seen it all now, huh? Youppi's been thrown out of the game, off the Dodgers dugout. Well, Bob Davidson is really hearing it. This is a first. Youppi's been thrown out of the ball game.
There you go. And the funny thing is, in the video, Tommy Lasorda is like dropping haymakers verbally as he's looking up at the stands at Youppi the whole way. That's crazy.
Yeah, and, Bob Davidson was one of those umpires who always went overboard, and I think that's a classic illustration. Look, if you want to make him get off their dugout, do that. That's fine. If that's irritating them in some way. But kick him all the way out of the ballpark? He's a mascot, for crying out loud. How could a mascot get under your skin that much without actually being on the field, which – the mascot in Philadelphia used to be on the field all the time and actually got in a couple of tussles with Tommy out there on the field. But and he used to taunt Tommy pretty good, too. He'd come out there in a Lasorda uniform top and with a few pounds added in the front of it, And so Tommy was just anti-mascot.
I think that's absolutely terrific. I had the pleasure of having dinner one night with Tommy Lasorda. Hank Jones had a banquet for youth baseball, and Harold Reynolds was there, and Tommy Lasorda was there. I emceed the event. This is a long time ago. And after the event was over, we sat down and had dinner, and Tommy Lasorda held court for like 2 straight hours, Godfather, nonstop jabber about everything, including Steve Sachs being unable to make a throw to first base. It was some entertaining stuff, and he has a unique ability. He had a unique ability to be able to eat at an alarming speed and still not stop talking the entire time. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
But great energy.
Yeah, I've had that same experience, and he can be pretty clear in his opinions. I'll tell you that. He doesn't mince words.
No, he doesn't mince any words, and all that. But he's one of those guys, like a lot of the great coaches. There's a certain presence about him. Like I didn't really feel the need to say anything. I just sat back and listened. But he commanded attention and respect. There's a certain power to certain guys like that with that type of presence. I was blown away.
Yeah. He was not always great to deal with from the media standpoint. He could be so great and tell such great stories. But if you caught him in the wrong moment, it was, what do you think I think of Kingman's performance?
That's my favorite sort of meltdown was when someone asked him about Dave Kingman's performance, and he just went ballistic and nonstop. Like, he couldn't get off it. Like, it just set him on a tailspin, and it was like vintage Lasorda for like 10 straight minutes. It's like, wow. All right, big thanks to all of you for listening, to Chris Burkhardt for being an absolute pimp at Master Control. We're back tomorrow with the Rip City Drive at 3, and Justin Myers tomorrow morning with Rip City Mornings at 6. Thank you, Chris and Godfather. I hope you have yourself a fabulous evening, my friend.
Have a great night down there at Spirit Mountain.
All right, right now Mavericks on top by 6 with 3:14 to play in the first, so we're hoping that Minnesota can extend the series and we get an all-important Game 6, so we'll keep an eye on that. But you guys have a good night.
Booyah! Jeremy Grant hits the thruple. Let's get out of here.
Oh, the Denver Broncos.
No.